I forgot to send one email and spent the rest of the day convinced I was about to get fired. If that thought hits you right in the chest, believe me, you are absolutely not alone. We're starting right here today in the messy, often totally hidden reality of what it actually feels like to navigate your day when your brain is just wired differently. You see, for so many adults, a minor oversight doesn't just feel like a tiny mistake, right? It feels like an avalanche. It feels like absolute proof that you are fundamentally broken. And this isn't just a fleeting worry we're talking about. It's the crippling, constant weight of an overactive inner critic. When you have adult ADHD, your brain takes a missed deadline, a forgotten appointment, or, hey, a pile of unwashed laundry, and it literally weaponizes it against you. That inner voice doesn't just say, oops, let's fix that. No, it screams, you are falling behind. Everyone else can handle life, so why on earth can't you? It leaves you feeling like you're perpetually playing catch-up in a game where everyone else was handed the rulebook, and you were just left to guess. Okay, let's dive into this and completely dismantle a massive myth right now. For years, neurotypical society has labeled this struggle as laziness. But think about it. Laziness implies a choice. It implies you don't actually want to do the thing. But you do want to do the thing. You desperately want to do the thing. The reality here, the actual clinical, biological reality, is executive dysfunction. It's not a moral failing, folks. It is a neurological misfire. I really want you to let this question sink in for a second. What if everything you've been secretly hating yourself for isn't a character flaw, but simply your biology? What if the reason you can't just power through or try harder is because your brain's engine is fundamentally built differently? Shifting this narrative from self-blame to scientific reality, that is the absolute first, most vital step toward reclaiming your life. So let's break down exactly what that science looks like. Executive dysfunction is a neurobiological disconnect. It directly affects your brain's frontal lobe. Think of that as the CEO of your brain, which is responsible for planning, organizing, and executing tasks. So when you're paralyzed on the couch, staring at the email you know you need to send, but physically feeling unable to start typing, that is not a lack of willpower. It's a neurological roadblock. Your brain literally isn't sending the chemical signals required to turn your intention into action. And because your brain has to work so incredibly hard just to manage those basic executive functions, your stress response is constantly on high alert. The ADHD brain's amygdala, that's the emotion center, creates a literal roller coaster. It turns minor, everyday stressors into major crises. Think of it like a leaky battery. While a neurotypical brain might lose, say, 5% of its charge dealing with a traffic jam, your ADHD brain might lose 40%. It's draining your energy before the workday has even properly begun. But here's the part most people get completely wrong. And honestly, it's the secret burden so many undiagnosed and late diagnosed adults carry in silence. Why does a minor piece of feedback or perceived criticism hurt so intensely? Like, why does it feel like an actual physical blow to the chest? The answer to that is rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD. For a long time, this was the missing piece of the ADHD puzzle. RSD is an extreme emotional sensitivity and literal pain triggered by the perception that you've been rejected, criticized, or have fallen short of expectations. And, brilliantly, when we give this crushing emotional weight an official clinical name, it finally validates an entire lifetime of feeling too sensitive or too dramatic. Because RSD doesn't just make you sad, it fundamentally alters how you navigate the world. It shows up as intense shame spirals over tiny mistakes. It creates this debilitating fear of failure, which then leads to chronic people-pleasing because, well, you're terrified of disappointing anyone. Your emotions go from 0 to 100 in seconds. Ultimately, all this constant vigilance and emotional dysregulation leads straight to severe burnout. It acts like an invisible, heavy knot constantly tightening around your relationships in your daily life. Now, before we explore how to start untangling that knot, I do need to pause for a second. This video is for informational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. If you or a loved one are experiencing a mental health crisis, please call 988, the National Suicide Hotline, 911, or go to the nearest emergency room immediately. All right, getting back into it, let's talk about why this is particularly profound for certain populations. 5. That is the number of years, on average, that women are diagnosed later than men, despite having the exact same age of symptom onset. This staggering statistic means that so many women arrive at their diagnosis already carrying years, often decades, of untreated masking, sheer exhaustion, and significantly worse mental health outcomes. And that brings us to something that is rarely talked about,
but is so deeply necessary to acknowledge: the profound grief of a late diagnosis. When you finally get that answer in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or even beyond, it isn't just a moment of relief. It's very often followed by a massive wave of mourning. You mourn the heavy what could have been. What would your life, your self-esteem, your career have looked like if you had just been supported and understood earlier, instead of constantly being told you just needed to apply yourself?
It's a complex, tangled web of emotions, for sure. But remember this: grief does not mean you are stuck. It means you are processing a real loss. Giving yourself permission to feel angry, sad, and totally frustrated about all those years spent struggling in the dark, that is a completely normal, necessary step. You absolutely have to honor that grief before you can fully step into the relief of self-discovery. So once you have your diagnosis, naturally you go looking for help. But you might run into a highly frustrating wall. Why do traditional therapies sometimes make the inner critic even louder? Why do standard neurotypical approaches sometimes leave the ADHD brain feeling even more broken and defeated than before?
Well, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast in therapeutic approaches. Traditional cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, often relies on catching negative thoughts, doing homework to write down evidence against them, and trying to fix the thought. But for an ADHD brain, that homework is an executive function nightmare. It just becomes another task to fail at. Contrast that with acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. ACT doesn't try to fix the thought. It uses diffusion, acknowledging the thought is there, taking away its power, and moving forward right alongside it. It actually works with your neurology rather than constantly fighting it. This neuro-affirming perspective completely shifts how we view our daily lives, particularly through the lens of struggle care, which is a brilliant concept championed by advocates like Casey Davis. Care tasks are morally neutral. I really want you to let that sink in. A messy house, an unread email, a massive pile of laundry, these things do not make you a bad, lazy, or failing person. They're simply care tasks, completely stripped of all the moral weight society has dumped on them. The ultimate goal of understanding all of this, your executive dysfunction, your RSD, your inner critic, isn't to somehow cure yourself so you can suddenly act like a perfect neurotypical person. Healing doesn't mean passing as neurotypical. Healing means building a life that actually works for you. It isn't about achieving a perfectly quiet mind, but rather crafting a life where you can move forward authentically, without being crippled by shame every single day. Let's see how this all builds into a structured roadmap out of that shame spiral. We call this the path to radical acceptance. First, validate your lived experience. Your struggles are real, they are valid. Second, unmask your authentic self and figure out who you actually are beneath all the expectations of others. Third, practice aggressive self-compassion. Seriously, treat yourself with the exact same grace you'd give your best friend. And fourth, utilize neuro-affirming tools and therapies that actually align with how your beautiful brain operates. But here is absolutely the most crucial takeaway from this entire explainer. You don't have to navigate executive dysfunction, masking, and late diagnosis grief alone. Finding a professional who genuinely understands neurodivergence, someone who doesn't just treat the symptoms but deeply gets the lived experience, it changes absolutely everything. It is literally the bridge between simply surviving and truly thriving. And if you're residing in Ohio, specialized, deeply compassionate care is entirely within your reach. Providers for Healthy Living offers comprehensive support tailored exactly to your unique brain. They completely understand that treating ADHD isn't just about handing you a planner, it's about holistic care spanning mental health, nutrition, and wellness services, all designed to support the real, authentic you. You absolutely deserve care that empowers you, care that sees your biology not as a flaw, but as a blueprint for how to support you best. You can take that empowering next step right now by visiting www.providersforhealthyliving.com. Connecting with a team that offers true neuroaffirming care is the natural, powerful conclusion to your long search for understanding. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to finally let go of the lazy myth, drop the heavy weight of that inner critic, and embrace your brilliant, authentic self? Your brain is not broken. It just needs the right owner's manual. If this explainer resonated with you today, please help us support this growing community. Go ahead and like this explainer, share it with someone who might really need to hear this message, leave a comment down below about your own journey, and subscribe for more insights. Your story matters and your healing starts right now.